All right, and we are live. Welcome back to another round of Nutrition Q&A. Today we're going to be diving into some questions from you guys. So if you want to be included on the next Q&As or even in this one too, as you tune in, if you guys are watching live, comment down below if you are live and I'll get to your questions. I'll prioritize your questions if you're watching live right now. If you're watching in the past replay, what I do is I go live for these once a week, every single Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, and I answer questions about nutrition, basketball, fitness, anything related to that, and honestly, some things not related to that. So if you want me to answer your questions, either stop by live or DM me on Instagram at @TClarkNutrition. That's at @TClarkNutrition. But I see we got 3 people on here, so you guys have any questions as we're getting started? I got one that I'm going to dive into right now, but type in the comments down below and I'll get to yours right away. But one question. Hey, what's going on? I appreciate you tuning in. Let me know if you have any questions I can help you out with. Who you got winning the bro? Maddie, if you're gonna ask me who I have winning the finals or winning the Western Conference Finals, take a wild guess. Who do you think I have? Just comment down below. Let me know who you think I have. But I think you can probably guess. Okay, that's a good question though. Celtics versus Heat. I don't know, honestly. I feel like it could go either way. I mean, obviously the Celtics would probably be favored to win, but I would really want to see the Heat win, to be honest. I think that'd be pretty cool. I like the Heat a lot. It's cool to see in the Eastern Conference teams that aren't ranked number 1. Is there a 2 seed? Are either the Celtics or the Heat a 2 seed? I'm not sure. But it's cool to see like some underdogs make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then obviously we got the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals too, so that's dope. But diving into a nutrition question I got on Instagram, let me pull it up real quick. JT was asking, what are your thoughts on a basketball player trying to gain some muscle but also get in good game shape? Does your caloric intake have a lot to do with your overall conditioning? What are my thoughts? If you're trying to build muscle and you're doing it the right way, so you're not putting on weight too quickly and you're in a calorie surplus but you're not way overdoing it, that'll actually help your performance, and you should see yourself getting stronger, faster, more explosive, because what usually happens when you put on muscle mass, you get stronger. And if you do it the right way, where you're not putting on a bunch of extra body fat, and you're obviously training in a smart fashion, plenty of other resources for training and whatnot. But if you're doing that correctly, you should see your performance improve, and it's usually a good thing for your performance as a basketball player when you're gaining muscle. Where it can go wrong and where people mess up is they put on weight way too quickly, and then they end up putting on excess body fat that slows them down. And that's where you kind of get the idea that, oh, you shouldn't put on muscle as a basketball player. You shouldn't try to gain weight as a basketball player, when that's not really true. You just got to do it the right way. And then you see people saying like Giannis's jump shot got ruined because he put on muscle. I don't think that's the case. It may have played a factor. It may have played a role in it. It may have been a small factor, but I don't think that's the main reason why his jump shot was suffering this season for whatever reason. It likely had to do with whatever he was doing on the court. But if you do gain weight in a way that's irresponsible and you're gaining weight way too quickly, you're putting on body fat, that's obviously not going to help you out. And then to the second part of that question was, do calories have anything to do with your overall conditioning? Absolutely. I talked about this in, definitely one video, maybe 2 videos here on the channel. I talked about some conditioning stuff and then also just general stamina for basketball, what impacts that nutritionally. Calories is probably the most important factor in that nutritionally. Because if you're under eating, you can be eating the right type of food, eating pretty healthy. But if you're not eating enough, you're going to be kind of screwed there. So yes, it definitely has a major role to play in your overall conditioning. If you're under eating, you're kind of just lost from the start. Think about it like going into a road trip with your gas tank half empty. You're going to have to pull over a lot sooner than if you would have filled up completely. Same thing here. So to answer that question, no, muscle gain is not bad for overall conditioning and stamina. It actually can help your performance in the court if you do it right. And calories definitely play a role, in your stamina on the basketball court. So hopefully that answered your question. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions to that. Now, another question we got from Maddie. He's asking, do you think Kawhi's nutrition is bad because he's seen gassed like he couldn't guard Jamal Murray in the fourth quarter? I'm having trouble reading today. Jeez. But on that subject, though, Kawhi's nutrition, I saw a couple tweets and posts going around the internet saying the Clippers were gassed. Their conditioning was not great. And then on the flip side, the Heat's conditioning, not that they were playing each other, but the Heat put a major focus on conditioning, and that may play a role in why they're able to make it so far, because they're able to outlast teams later in the game, later in the fourth quarter, because that's something a lot of people don't realize. A lot of games are decided in the fourth quarter, in the second half, as far as like it being close. A poor decision or a poor play could cost you a game. A good run in the third, fourth quarter, or a poor run in the third, fourth quarter could decide the fate of a game. So if you're not in good shape, if your conditioning is not great, that could definitely impact it. And it's cool to see that topic being brought up now. People are kind of realizing, oh yeah, they're gassed. No wonder they couldn't stay in front of their players. So I do think that it definitely had something to do with it. Now, I don't know the specifics of Kawhi's diet. I haven't looked into that, so I don't know specifically what was going on, but it would make sense. Assuming they were doing conditioning. If they just said, screw it, didn't do any conditioning, then yeah, that kind of messed them up. But assuming they were training like an NBA team would train, you should be in good shape. So definitely their diet would play a role in that. And yeah, I saw that on Coleman's story too. That's where I saw this post. That's a good question though, and I think it's really important for you guys to understand that are watching this right now and in the past replay. Nutrition matters for that sort of stuff. You could do conditioning workouts all you want. You could do all the hill sprints, all the track workouts, all the 17s in the world. Not that those are great ways to get in shape, but you can do all the conditioning and do everything right with your training. If your nutrition is not on point, you will suffer at some point, usually later in the game, usually when it really matters most. And that's another thing. When the issues with nutrition kind of show themselves tend to be when things really matter, later in games, later in seasons overall, when your body is more beat up, you're more tired, you're sore, you're achy, your inflammation is higher. It's just kind of a messy situation overall. If your diet is not on point there, that's just going to make it worse, and it's going to make it harder. So if you want to be able to separate yourself in those difficult situations where most people fold, or most people get gassed or injured, or just make a poor decision because they can't think straight because they didn't eat enough or didn't eat enough of the right foods, not staying hydrated. If you want to put yourself in a position to separate yourself in those times, you got to have your nutrition on point. Your nutrition, your sleep, stress management, all things that are extremely underrated. Everyone wants to focus on what they can do to grind more or train more or get more workouts in. How about getting better workouts in instead of just trying to train more? You get more time off to do whatever you want, and you get more out of the time that you put in the gym. So just consider that. All right, let's see. Is it cool to eat a lot of sandwiches? LOL. I eat turkey sandwiches and PB&Js. Yeah, that's totally fine. As far as like what foods to eat, this is why you don't really see me talking about recipes and what foods to eat specifically. I do need to get more into that because I know people like recipe content. I don't enjoy creating recipe content, to be honest. That's why I don't put it out. Or in terms of like food lists and 21 sources of protein, stuff like that. There's Captain. Let's see if he quiets down real quick. All right, I think we're good. But that's why I don't do stuff like that as much, because I just don't like it. But another reason to kind of rationalize it, telling you what to eat really isn't going to help you out as much as teaching you how to eat. This is why I don't do meal plans or write out specifically have chicken breast, rice, and broccoli at every single meal. Or whether, even if you switch it up, writing out exactly what to have and exactly what time. I usually don't do that. And when I do, it usually doesn't have the same success as actually teaching someone, hey, this is how many meals you should have per day. This is why. This is what your meal should look like in general, like a structure. So protein, carbs, fats, color. You can eat these foods in these categories. As long as you have those, you're good. That's why I don't really do that sort of content, because teaching someone how to eat is much more effective than just telling them, hey, eat these exact foods at this exact time. Because when I'm not there to tell them that, they're screwed. And that's not good. If you're screwed every time you don't have a nutritionist to say, hey, what should I eat at exactly this meal? It's not a recipe for success throughout the rest of your career. My goal as a nutrition coach is to help you be successful for the rest of your career and beyond your career, because nutrition is still important, even when you retire. Just keep that in mind. I know a lot of y'all are young, but please remember that when the ball stops bouncing, you still got to pay attention to your diet, or else things can get a little ugly. So just a heads up, several years in advance. We need more daily captain content. I got you. I will definitely be posting more pictures of captain. I should have started a dog page. Might get some more engagement. Dude, Instagram engagement has dropped so much lately. It's such BS. But it's a good thing, because then it allows me to post less because they're just not doing as well. So I'm focusing a lot more on YouTube right now, which is good. I think that's where I'm going to be putting most of my attention going forward. And then I want to get the podcast back. I'm just being lazy with the podcast, being completely honest with you. It doesn't, I already have, like, this, what I'm recording right now could be a podcast. That's what I do. I just repurpose stuff for the podcast, and I have the live interviews. I just, I'm too lazy to edit them and post them, but I need to get back on next. And know some of y'all like listening to the podcast. So I promise I will get that back going up. That sentence did not make sense, but let's forget that. Now, going on to some other questions. I asked that partly because I wanted you to talk shit about Kawhi and the Clippers. Yeah, I mean, I think NBA Twitter has done that enough. I don't think I need to talk any more crap, to be honest. They did it to themselves. That's the thing, bro. Like, how are you going to talk all that smack, and then get knocked out before you even get to the Western Conference Finals? Everyone was saying, oh, the Clippers are going to win it all. No. Man. That game made me so happy, because there was a stretch there where, like, the Clippers were better than the Lakers, and everyone's like, oh, it's the Clippers city now. No. And I think that was made very clear this past, I don't even know what day it was, but a couple days ago. Hopefully the Lakers can pull out this Western Conference Finals win, because then there's just no debate. They happen to get knocked out by the Nuggets. Honestly, I would be mad, but I wouldn't be that mad. A Nuggets versus Heat final would be pretty crazy. Like, not going to lie. I think we can all agree that would be a fun series to watch, and whoever wins that'd be fun. It'd be really cool. But if the Lakers do lose, I will be very angry. Just saying. Yeah, Maddie, I know that the algorithm changed again, and this is why, like, I have content in so many different places. So if Instagram happens to go to complete crap, I can just go to Twitter. I can go focus on YouTube, because YouTube probably isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So it puts me in a position where I can just focus on that. But yeah, I mean, you got to keep in mind, I'm a Laker fan, so there's also a rivalry between Lakers and Celtics. I'm not as, like, diehard about that one. I honestly dislike the Clippers more than the Celtics. I wouldn't mind seeing the Celtics win, to be honest. But by default, being a Laker fan, I have to kind of root against the Celtics. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind if they made it. But I really want the Heat to make it. I think that'd be really cool. All right, let's get back to some nutrition questions real quick. Elijah's asking, what can I do to get my shot back on track? I didn't have a hoop during quarantine, so I'm pretty sure my shot will be short. Just keep shooting and just train smart. To be completely honest, in terms of skills training, I don't want to give you some BS answer. I'm probably not the greatest in the world to ask about skills training. I can give you general advice. Just get the reps in and make sure you're getting quality reps in, and make sure you go on game speed. But you don't have to kill yourself in every single session. And of course, make sure your diet is on point, so that way you get the most out of every session, so you maximize your rate of improvement and get yourself back to where you were pre-quarantine as quickly as possible. But in terms of, like, the technical details of how to get out of a shooting slump, I'm sure in one of my interviews with the several very high level basketball skills trainers that I've had on the podcast. I'm pretty sure we discussed that at some point. I forget the exact guest that it was. Maddie, maybe you can remember. But at some point, I'm sure we talked about that. So you can check those out, or any of those resources would be a good place to look. But yeah, I mean, as far as skills training, not the go-to guy there. Really just in my lane with the nutrition side of it. Going to connect with Coleman this Saturday when he comes to Orange County. Probably not, unfortunately, just because of the whole quarantine situation. I'm assuming that he's obviously flying out here, so I'm living with my parents right now, so I'm kind of playing it safe as far as where I go. I really haven't gone out the house much since quarantine started, so it's unfortunate, but at some point, I definitely want to meet up with him, whether that's on the West Coast, whether it's flying out to the East Coast. Definitely want to make that happen. I cannot wait till this whole COVID thing is over, so I can like travel and network. Because a lot of the people I know and I'm friends with are just all over the country, so there's that. But yeah, I probably won't be seeing him this time, but it will definitely happen at some point. All right, Brady's asking, if you're eating 4 meals a day, how should I space them out? When you're first getting started, literally whatever you prefer. I don't care if you eat 2 like back to back, an hour like one, and then an hour later you eat another one, and then you don't eat till the evening. That's fine. If you space them out evenly, that's fine too. When you're first getting started, it's really about creating consistency with getting 4 meals in per day. Now, assuming you have that consistency, you have the foundation in place, maybe you're even tracking your calories and macros. When you're doing that, when you have that foundation in place and it's rock solid, it's second nature at this point, then at that point, we're looking at meal timing. Usually the best way to go is every 3 to 5 hours you should be eating. If you're eating 4 meals a day, I would go like every 4 hours. That's probably, actually no, 4 hours. Every 3 to 4 hours. Every 3 to 4 hours. I'm just trying to do the math there, because if you're eating every 4 hours, it's 16 hours, and you don't want to be eating right before bed. So I would go every 3 hours, but really anywhere in between every 3 to 5 hours should be fine. That's typically how you want to do it, so you maximize muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. The research there is a little bit flawed, so take that with a grain of salt. But if you actually done that, you should be fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with spacing it out evenly. That's probably your best bet. The guest was Gunnar Peterson. Okay, cool. So I guess I talked about getting out of a shooting slump with Gunnar. So that interview is on the YouTube channel. I believe it's on podcast form too. So that one is up. That was before I kind of went MIA on the podcast, but it's definitely on the YouTube channel, Gunnar Person. So check that out. It was a really good interview. Had a really good conversation with him. So if you want to learn how to get out of a shooting slump, I would definitely check that video out, or that podcast out. Low-key, this COVID thing is good for me because it gives me more time in the off season to develop my skills, athleticism, nutrition. Yeah, I mean, definitely you can use it to your advantage. A lot of people don't. A lot of people haven't. Hopefully, the fact that there is a deadline on when the season starts, at least for college players, will kind of get people going and realizing, oh shoot, I should have been working on this way back then. I better start now. And that's the thing. If you've been putting it off, just start. You're not going to go in the past. That's fine. Just start. The best time to get started with your nutrition was yesterday. Second best time is now. Super cheesy saying. You see a lot of gurus using that one, but super cheesy. I get it, but it's true. You just need to get started. You don't need anything fancy. If you want to track your macros and do all that, that's fine. It's 100% effective, but you don't need to, especially if you're first getting started. Like literally, like we got a question about 4 meals a day earlier, do that. Just eat 4 times every single day. You'd be surprised how many basketball players struggle with that alone. Get that down. Then start getting a protein source at every meal. Start getting a carbohydrate source at every meal. Start getting some color. Start getting some healthy fats. Get that down. Get that checklist every single one of those 4 meals. Then progress to, okay, maybe you start tracking your calories. See where I'm going? Just get started. You're not going to benefit from just sitting around and planning things. You have to actually execute it. So That's my motivational rant for the day. Hopefully that helps. Probably won't, but I hope it helps someone out there. Just get started. I mean, we had this whole quarantine. Obviously, everyone has individual situations and things can get pretty crazy during this time. But at this point, now that the season, we have a light at the end of the tunnel. But for high schoolers, I know in California, I think starting in January or March, either January or March, I forget what the month is there. But there is that light at the end of the tunnel. So please get started with what you need to be doing now. Don't wait and then regret it once the season starts. That first day of practice, it should be very clear that you made some drastic improvements over the course of the off season. If you're not sure, if you're not feeling super confident, that's probably a sign you got to get to work. You got to get to work on your training, your nutrition, your mindset, your film watching, whatever. You just got to get to work. Cool? Cool. All right, another question. Is 7 hours of sleep not enough? Would you recommend 8 or more? So 7 technically is fine. I would recommend you get 8. If you have time and you can get 9 hours of sleep per night, by all means, go ahead. I'm jealous of you. But 8 hours of sleep is very doable, and that'll be like kind of that sweet spot of what's optimal and what's practical. Everyone can get 8 hours of sleep. Obviously, that's a generalization. So before anyone comes at me saying, oh, I have this special situation, I get it. But if you prioritize it and it's possible in your schedule, get 8 hours. 7 hours is fine. So if you have a situation where maybe you have to stay up late for work or for school or whatever life situation, get 7. Less than 7, you're going to suffer. 6 is like that bare minimum of what's kind of acceptable, but even 6 hours of sleep is kind of crappy. I would say 7 is the bare minimum. 8 is optimal. 9 is like you're killing it, but it's probably not very likely you're going to get that amount of sleep on a daily basis. If you can, by all means, go ahead, but just don't beat yourself up if you can't get 9 hours. But 8 hours, go ahead, get that. All right, any other questions, guys? Let me know. And also, if you're new around here, let me pull up the banner real quick. Where is it? Where? Number 1, subscribe. I would appreciate that. And also turn on notification bells, because subscriptions don't really mean much because you don't get notified when I post and you kind of miss them. You have a greater chance of missing them. So turn on that notification bell. Oh, my throat's getting dry. It's getting to that point in the podcast. But turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I post, whenever I go live. I'd appreciate that. And you'll appreciate it because you get first dibs on all my content and you don't miss anything, so you don't miss out on an opportunity to get better as a basketball player. And secondly, hoopsquiz.com. Take the free quiz, get your free game plan, get things going in the right direction. Really just take the quiz. It'll help pinpoint where you're messing up right now and give you a free plan to help you fix that so you can start playing better literally today. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. Now, Maddie, any other questions? I don't know if we got Elijah or Brady in here. I don't know which one. We've got 2 people in here. So either Elijah or Brady, I think. But do you guys have any questions that can help you guys out as we start to wrap it up? Going to keep this one pretty quick. Kind of tight today, not going to lie. So unless you guys have any other questions, I'll probably go ahead and wrap it up. We've got a couple questions on IG, so I'll go ahead and check those out. But let's see. I apologize for the awkward silence on the podcast, by the way. I'm just looking for a question real quick. Let's see. All right, we got one question. I'm gonna probably wrap it up with this one. But number 1 piece of advice nutritionally for recovery. And anyone guess what I'm about to say? I think it'll be pretty obvious. In a lot of nutritional questions, we're talking about performance, we're talking about recovery, we're talking about muscle gain, all come back to the same thing. And most people aren't even getting this right. So there are other things to consider, but a lot of people aren't even getting this first step right. And the first step to all this is making sure you are not under eating. You could have the best recovery habits in the world. You could have the cleanest diet in the world. But if you are not eating enough calories, not getting enough fuel, you're not going to recover optimally. You're not going to perform optimally. So my number one piece of advice would be eat enough food, whether that means tracking your calories, whether that means getting 4 meals in per day. I don't really care. Just make sure you're eating enough. Make sure you are not in a calorie deficit. That's how you're going to maximize recovery. That's how you're going to maximize performance. You might be wondering, what if I'm trying to lose body fat? Well, kind of just got to accept that performance is not going to be optimal during that fat loss phase. That's okay, because you're not trying to lose body fat when performance matters. You're not trying to lose body fat during your season. If you are, don't do it. It's stupid. Try to lose body fat in your off season. And on that subject, if you are a teenager, don't try to lose body fat. I don't care who tells you that you got to lose body fat to get your vertical up. I promise you that in most cases, you'll be better off fueling for performance than losing an extra 0.5% of body fat to gain an inch or two on your vertical. I promise you that. You'll be better off with your endurance, with your stamina, with your strength, with your just overall performance as a basketball player by fueling for performance. When you get too caught up in trying to chase a certain body fat percentage, it's well-intentioned, but it can come back to bite you. So please be careful with that, especially if you are a teenager, because if you're in a calorie deficit for too long, that's how you kind of stunt your growth and development. And a lot of you have been asking me, saying, my mom's 5'2", my dad's 5'6", can I be 6'4"? In that case, probably not, unfortunately, unless you're like a genetic anomaly. But in those situations where you're asking me, how tall can I be? One of the ways to make sure that you are not as tall as you can be, can't speak, is to eat in a calorie deficit for a prolonged period of time. So being in a calorie deficit for a short period of time is fine. It's not a big deal. But when you get caught up in the cycle of trying to just get lean and get lean and get lean and get lean, that is how you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. So please be careful with that. Yeah, that's my rant. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't even know where that rant started from, to be honest. Something about nutrition for recovery. But yeah, just eat enough calories, please. If you're going to lose body fat, do it in your off season. Don't try to do it during your season. Acknowledge that your performance isn't going to suck, but you're not going to feel the best that you possibly can. So don't try to lose body fat when it really matters. And also, for my high schoolers out there, if you're going to like showcase camps or AAU games or any sort of showcase, I said showcase twice. If you're doing anything like that where you're playing in front of college coaches and you got to perform well, even if it's in your off season, that's still not really an off season, because you gotta play well. That's really make or break in determining whether or not you play college basketball. So you don't want to be in a position where you're trying to lose body fat to look better for these coaches when they don't even really care. They want you to play well. Of course, aesthetics do matter to some extent to college coaches, even though it doesn't really matter that much. They do care. They want you to pass the eye test. But when you get too caught up in chasing the aesthetics, you forget about the performance, and you forget that they're kind of opposing goals. So yes, losing body fat will help you gain an inch or a couple inches or a handful of inches on your vertical jump. That's great. But it doesn't really matter if your stamina sucks. So please be aware of that. Be careful out there. And especially if you're a teenager, just be careful going into a calorie deficit, because you don't really want to do that. All right. Any other questions? Anything about that? Any other questions you want me to clarify? Any nutrition questions, basketball questions? Also going to be streaming on Twitch, not tomorrow, but Saturday, 9 a.m. Going to be going live on Twitch. Let me know, anyone who wants to play Warzone with me. I need a team. I'm just been playing solos. I need a team to play with. So this is my open invitation out there. If anyone wants to play with me, be advised, I'm not the best player in the world. I'm decent. I'm okay. I'm average. Not great. But if anyone wants to run it, I'm going to stream on Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific. So if anyone wants to do that, let me know. I'm on Xbox, but I think it's cross-platform, so it doesn't really matter. But do the three of you watching right now have questions I can answer for you? Let me know, or else I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I've got 4 people. It's popping in here. I appreciate you stopping by, though. This is the most people like concurrently that we've had live on one of these in a while. So I appreciate everyone stopping by. 4 may not seem like much, but I appreciate you guys stopping by. In your grocery video, okay, so we got another question. Nicholas is asking, in your grocery video, you said not to waste money. I've read on some scientific journals that there are some proven superfoods like greens, berries, garlic, spirulina. Which produce has the most bang for your buck? Like some are more nutrient packed. So in terms of veggies and produce, you really can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong, to be honest. So if you want to get some of those superfoods, like berries, yes, they're a superfood, but they're fruit. Like they're fruit. So we can call them a superfood, but they're fruit. Like it's not something magical. Blueberries have a ton of antioxidants. They're fruit though. That's fine. If you want to call them a superfood, that's cool. But yeah, I agree. We can get that. Garlic does have some good properties. I believe it's involved. There's some like immune system supporting. You don't want to say immune system boosting because you can't really boost your immune system, but it does support your immune system. So yeah, if you want to add stuff like that, that's totally fine. What I meant by don't waste your money on superfoods is like those packaged sort of fancy snacks that try to market to you, get you to spend more money than you actually need. So like berries are just a whole food. That's fine. Although raspberries are crazy expensive, especially if you get them fresh. I would get raspberries frozen just to save a buck or two. But overall, the foods you mentioned, 100%, I would recommend those. Greens, again, you could classify them as a superfood, but they're vegetables. They're leafy greens. So where I was more so going with that assertment that you shouldn't go after these superfoods, quote unquote, is more so the packaged ones that try to sell you a tiny package of this superfood snack for like 12 bucks. And it's like, why am I going to spend that much money when I could easily get some leafy greens, berries, or whatever, or much less? So that's where I was going there. Does that make sense? And also, Nicholas, I believe you asked me about the paleo question. Don't go paleo. I promise you it will not end well. You can follow a paleo-ish approach, but eat your carbs, eat your grains. Don't cut them out. Speaking from experience, I did this. I made the same mistake. Do not do that. Please, I beg you, don't do that. But can you make a list? Most nutrient-packed stuff. Yeah, I mean, the grocery list in the description of that video, all that stuff in there is nutrient-packed. I think the biggest thing there is don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. In terms of vegetables and fruits, the biggest piece of advice I could give you is just get more variety in there. So get a bunch of different fruits and vegetables. That's like your best defense. In terms of like a specific fruit or a specific vegetable that is going to magically change your life, it doesn't exist. That's just not a thing. And that's where you kind of get caught up. So just don't overthink that too much. Just get a wide variety of all sorts of fruits and vegetables, whatever ones you enjoy. Obviously, things like berries have plenty of antioxidants. Kiwi has a pretty absurd amount of vitamin C. Sweet potatoes have vitamin A. I wouldn't consider it like a superfood, but they all have different micronutrients, and they're all very nutrient dense. So I wouldn't overthink, to be honest. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions? I don't know if y'all are in California, but the air quality outside has been so bad. So bad. I usually go outside for walks like 2-3 times a day, and I haven't been able to. And it's like I feel it. I've gained like 2 pounds in the past couple of days, which is probably not fat, which is good because you're not going to gain fat that quickly. But nonetheless, I do miss going for walks outside because it's all smoky and whatnot over here. But enough of me rambling. Do y'all have any other questions? Anything else I can help y'all out with? Let me know in the comments too. Who do you guys have in the Western Conference Finals? Any other answer besides the Lakers will get you blocked, but proceed carefully. Rel, I would not be opposed to that, to be honest. I really would not be opposed to that. Maybe once I'm done with school. But yeah, comment down below. Who do you got in the finals or the Western Conference Finals? And the Eastern Conference Finals for that matter. Who's your matchup in the finals? Lakers and who else? The only right answer. Lakers and someone else. Let me know. Where do I go to school? I go to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, but I'm at home right now because everything's online for fall quarter. So that's where I go to school. And then last question, what's intra-workout nutrition? So intra-workout nutrition is what you eat during your workout. So during. Pre-workouts before, post-workouts after. Intra is during. So like while you're training. You usually see this a lot with like endurance athletes using carbohydrate gels and snacks and stuff like that. You could also use it as a basketball player. Things like Gatorade during your practice would count as intra-workout nutrition. So that's what we're discussing. That's what we mean when we're discussing intra-workout nutrition. Like, what are you having during your workout or during your game to fuel you during that? I said during like 17 times during that. Wow, I said it again. I can't think of a synonym for it though, but whatever. Hopefully you get what I mean. Do you ever take a green powder? I don't personally. I have a pretty sensitive gut, and those green powders tend to have a lot of different things in there, and it's hard to pinpoint what exactly will give me issues. So I tend to stay away from it. I've heard mixed reviews about greens powders. Some people swear by them, but I believe there was a recent study that showed that they didn't really do all that much. So if it gives you a placebo effect in terms of just making you feel better, go ahead. It's fine. But I wouldn't depend on them too much. You definitely don't want to be in a position where you're getting all your fruit and vegetable, all your quote unquote fruit and vegetable intake from those green powders, because that's not going to cut it there. But you can use them. Again, just make sure it's a clean supplement. Like, don't take anything that's kind of sketchy. But overall, can't really go wrong. But it's not something you need to have by any means. What do you eat during intra or drink? So for basketball players, the most applicable thing I would just say is Gatorade, some sort of Gatorade. If you're in a fat loss phase and you're in a deficit, maybe you can go with some Gatorade Zero or like the low calorie or zero calorie version. But if you're just trying to fuel properly, you're in a performance phase or a muscle gaining phase, just a regular old Gatorade can be fine. You could also use a powdered carbohydrate like highly branched cyclic dextrin. Highly branched cyclic dextrin. It's a long one, but that's another type of carbohydrate powder that could be beneficial. But honestly, for simplicity's sake, typically I just recommend going with something like Gatorade if you're trying to fuel during that training session. And if you need something solid, maybe it's a really long practice or a really long workout, something like honey, just regular honey or raw organic honey or just raw honey. It doesn't have to be organic, but like that can be a good fuel source. Something like those honey stinger waffles can be a good fuel source. I think LeBron was eating those fairly recently. Not that you should take all your nutrition advice from LeBron. You see my video on that. If you haven't, watch it. It's an entertaining one. But things like that. In general, you're going to want to prioritize carbohydrates during your workouts. Anything we can do that's homemade, depends on what you mean by homemade. So if you're talking about like a drink, you could do some sort of carbohydrate powder and water. Like, it probably won't taste amazing, but that could work. But honestly, I would just go with some sort of Gatorade. But yeah, primarily carbohydrates. Most basketball players aren't going to be training long enough to really require protein or amino acids. That's more so in like the endurance athlete crowd. Gatorade has a ton of sugar, but what is sugar though? Sugar is a carbohydrate. So that's where you have to be careful with getting to quote unquote healthy. Because that's where it can come back to bite you. You don't need to be afraid of sugar. Sugar is a carbohydrate. Obviously, too much sugar. So if you're just chugging Gatorade left and right, probably not a great look. But if you're having a bottle during a really hard workout, it's fine. Don't overthink that one. You don't need to go all natural with it, unless you try Gatorade and it actually gives you issues. Then you could try something else. But really, for simplicity's sake, and you just need carbohydrates. It doesn't matter if it's sugar or not sugar. You just need carbohydrates to fuel you properly. If you're training that hard, you actually do need to focus on intra-workout nutrition. You shouldn't really be caring if it's coming from Gatorade or an all-natural source. And then in terms of price, I don't know how expensive like a carbohydrate powder would be relative to just getting Gatorade. So I'm not sure about that one, what the best call would be there. But if you really don't want to do Gatorade, you could do something like some sort of carbohydrate powder, like maltodextrin, which I mean, if we're comparing like the health benefits to maltodextrin to Gatorade, one isn't really better than the other. So if that's cheaper, you can go with that. Something like highly branched cyclic dextrin could be fine. That's another type of carbohydrate source. And then in terms of just regular foods, things like honey can actually be a really good call. There's these little honey like pouches that serve as an intra-workout snack. But if you think about it, what is honey? Honey is sugar too. So is Gatorade. So just keep that in mind. Don't get so caught up in worrying about like banishing all sugar. Obviously, if you're not training super hard and you're more so like a sedentary individual, you're just working a desk job, you're not really training for basketball, yeah, be a little more mindful of it. But having a Gatorade for a really hard training session where you're really pushing yourself really isn't going to do any harm. All right. Any last questions before I go ahead and wrap it up? All right. So if I have a lift from 12 to 1 and practice from 1 to 2:30, Gatorade would suffice, right? Or can I just go without? I just have some honey in my oatmeal at 7 a.m. for breakfast. So if you're talking for a 12 p.m. workout, a 7 a.m. breakfast, I guess that could still count as a pre-workout meal, but like 5 hours between breakfast and that meal, it's a bit of a long time. So when I'm talking about honey, I'm talking about like having it during or like between the lift and practice. So if you get that in between then, that's fine. Or have a pre-workout meal a little bit closer to that training session and then just get a post-workout meal in after and you should be fine. A 2.5 hour session, you don't need to have intra-workout nutrition, but it could be helpful. But yeah, the honey that you have at 7 a.m. for a 12 p.m. workout really isn't gonna make or break anything there. Have you been putting your steps in? And not as much as I would like right now. I do have a treadmill. You can see it behind. Yep, there it is behind me. I could use that. I'm not gonna lie. I've just been making excuses because the air quality is kind of crap. So I haven't really been outside as much. I go outside in the morning because it tends to be better and like less smoky outside in the morning. So I've been outside for a walk here and there, but nowhere near the 10 to 12,000 steps I want to be at. But I think I'm going to start prioritizing that tomorrow. Today it's already a little bit late and I'm kind of tired, so I'm probably just going to play video games after this. But yeah. All right, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because I got to watch a genetics lecture right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I appreciate y'all stopping by. I appreciate all the questions. This was a really good turnout. So I appreciate all you guys that stopped by, asked some questions. And again, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell so you know when I post, you know when I go live. And if you forget, I go live every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. And I will also be going live on Twitch on Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. If you want to tune in then, I'll put that link either in the comments of this video or on Instagram somewhere. So be sure to check that out. But with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because apparently I can't talk anymore, as you guys can see by me tripping over my words. But I appreciate y'all stopping by. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions on IG or Twitter or anywhere you want to hit me up or just in the comments down below, whatever you want to do. But just know I'm here to help out. And last but not least, go to hoopsquiz.com. I will link that in the description down below. It should already be linked in the description down below. So check that out. Take the free quiz, get your free game plan. And with that, have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you soon.